New patch, get rid of Elk. No, but today, guys, we're here with 7.22G. Very exciting day because we all know what's coming. Down with Alchemist, down with Enchantress, hopefully down with some other of the top meta heroes as well. But yeah, let's get some spice into Dota and get into 7.22G. So first off, only one general change here today. We have basic neutrals now only give 5% less bounty, and what this means is that Ancients are still just as good. So Ancient stacks and heroes that farm Ancients still have that major benefit, but everything else is slightly worse. I guess just somewhat of a push away from jungling from your boy Ice Frog. Now let's get into item changes, and I think these are very good item changes because these items in particular were some of the best of TI in my opinion. It felt like they were bought very consistently. In fact, some of these were even bought on supports. Like a support build literally could look like this, except maybe without the Midas. But let's get into it. First off is Bracer. Bracer was unbelievably good on every single strength hero and many supports. It just makes you infinitely tankier, considering if you bought 2, you would get 12% magic resistance. And honestly, still it's not that bad. 10% plus all the strength it gives you is very good in the early game, and I expect many of the heroes that bought Bracer to continue to buy Bracer. So do not become too afraid of a 1% change. The second half of Bracer that I want to mention is like, because you bought 2, I guess it's a little bit worse than 1%. It ends up being more like 2%. Still, not the end of the world. Next up, we have Midas, 100 more gold to Midas, and I think this was necessary because a lot of the popular carries of TI bought Midas. We had Lifestealer, we had Faceless Void, we had Slark, right? All these heroes really bought Midas. Even Spectre. We saw Spectres with Midas. Sven would buy Midas. A lot of these top tier carries would very often buy Midas, and as a result, I really do think this change was necessary to incentivize away from the item a little bit too much because it was way too good. 40 attack speed, even after all the nerfs Midas has received, is really good for farming. Like, it even feels like sometimes just as, like, 40 attack speed is just as good as Yasha for farming sometimes, which kind of puts Yasha in a weird place, and I think it's why we've seen a shift away from Yasha and a shift towards from Midas for the farming item for agility cores. And therefore, 100 more gold to the Midas recipe is a necessary and solid change. Next up, we have a chainmail nerf, and this was great. A lot of heroes, in fact, started buying chainmail over boots from the side shop. You could buy a chainmail for boots, and you still can. And because it was 5 armor and a build up into phase boots, in order to trade better, heroes would buy chainmail and not boots, which is kind of weird because often you would think that boots is the first item you almost always would buy. So I think this makes sense. In general, I think phase boots was the best boots in Dota right now. Having armor and damage as well as increased movement speed made it very hard to get killed and made it very easy to get kills in both situations. It was a super flexible item, and phasing through creeps is also extremely useful in many situations. So I think phase boots by far was the best boots, and therefore it getting nerfed by only 1 armor seems extremely reasonable, in addition with the chainmail. Next up, we have Medallion and Solar Crest, and Solar Crest for a while has been a top 3 item for me. I've been playing Prophet for quite a while now, and even since the beginning of Prophet nerfs, which was a few patches ago, I was buying Solar Crest every game, and it felt like it was a very undervalued item because people were not considering that it has a dual use, and I think items that have dual use are extremely good. Items like Bracer, where it can be just good for aggression, right? It gives you early stats. Midas, good for farming, but also defensive play if you're behind. Good when you're ahead or behind in that case. Phase Boots, as I talked about. And now Solar Crest, you could use it defensively on your opponent to reduce, or I guess aggressively in that sense, to reduce their attack speed, and by a lot, right? It was a ton, right? This is no joke of an item, right? Reducing attack speed by 80 is insane. It's 2 Midases if you want to look at it like that way. Really crazy. I don't think people realized how good this was for a while. Not only that, it removed 12 armor and 10 movement speed for only 4k gold. Right? 4k gold is pretty reasonable for an item that has this much utility and such good build-up. That's the second half to Solar Crest. Incredible build-up. Being able to buy a medallion and then a windlace and even an ultimate orb as a build-up to an item makes an item good. Right? Another reason why Phase Boots was good, it had really good build-up with this chainmail, and I think that's really what separated Solar Crest. Fantastic build-up, Medallion in an early game was broken, therefore armor reduced for Medallion by 1, armor reduced for Solar Crest by 2, and the recipe cost increased by 100. Very sensible to me. Next up, we have the Sentry Ward's stock replenish time increased by 15 seconds. That's huge! 15 seconds on Sentry Wards. We're going to see a lot less dewarding. And what this seems to be is a push from Ice Frog, an incentive to be much more careful with your Sentry Wards, to really know where wards are without, like, not just spamming Sentry Wards. Now, sure, you still can buy 10 and spam them down but you have to be a bit more careful, especially going into the late game when you might need them for fights and dewarding. And as a result, this is a kind of a weird change to me. I don't know why you would push away from sentry wards. It seems like IceFrog almost wants supports to just buy other items and make the game interesting to some extent. That's my guess. Now moving on to heroes, hallelujah! Let's go, guys. I mean, Alchemist, he needed this. Let's be real. I mean, was the hero winning every game? I mean, basically. Okay, no. But in general, I'm glad with these changes. This is sort of kind of what I thought, and a nerf to Greevil's Screed was coming, right? But you still can only leave early points in it and max acid spray, meaning I think Alchemist is still okay, guys. I'm not going to lie. Sure, the Greevil Greed gold bonus per stack has been reduced from 4 to 3, meaning it takes a longer time to get to the max amount of gold per creep, but you still will get there. And 4 to 3 it's noticeable, right? 25% is no joke, but is it enough to make this hero not farm faster than everyone else? Still? I don't know. I think Alchemist is still pretty good, and for pubs, you're still not going to get pressured. A bigger change here, actually, in my opinion, might to some extent be Chemical Rage, and how I see this with Bracers especially getting nerfed by a little bit, we might see Alchemists go back towards the Soul Ring, because having no mana regeneration from Chemical Rage means that Clarities might not cut it. You still will probably even buy them if you go Soul Ring, but instead of 2 Bracers, I think we're going to see a lot more of Bracer Soul Ring if this hero is still picked. And then finally some talent nerfs, 50 damage to 30, which is completely necessary. The 50 damage talent was way too good. Now maybe you consider taking health, maybe we'll even see a shift back towards Magical Alch, who knows? And the base attack time 25 talent getting reduced by 0.05. Not crazy, but definitely pushing away from this right-click Alch that we've been seeing. Brewmaster getting his well-deserved buff, the damage or the attack coming out of the Invis Air Panda. So if you're unfamiliar with the hero, if you split, you get 3 pandas, 1 earth, 1 fire, 1 wind, and you could go invisible with the Wind Panda, and if you attacked coming out of Invis, it will deal bonus damage. And this gives it 40 more at level 1. I mean, at all levels really, but the most notable part is level 1, where you're going to hit that really hard level 6 spike and be able to solo kill people even easier, considering you get at least 2 of these off out of it. So definitely big buff to Brewmaster in my opinion. No joke, I thought Broodmother was, after this patch, if it, for whatever odd reason, got a buff, like only because, I don't know, maybe IceFrog would miss something and buff it. But no, that didn't happen. It did get nerfed, because honestly, if Brood got buffed, I think it would be like a top 5 hero of Dota. But it got nerfed, and pretty hard in my opinion. No joke, I actually think this is like pretty rough. Brewmother. The Scepter was what I thought made it like really crazy, and a lot of players as well. Chris Luck was going Midas Axe every single game when playing this hero, and now they reduced the numbers from 12 charges down to 10, and Spin Web Scepter upgrade reduced from 30% to 20% movement speed. And the movement speed's a big deal because it depends on, like, it's what you rely on to catch up the heroes and kite in and out of the fight, as well as farm faster. So pretty huge nerf to Broodmother. Do I think the hero is still very good? Yes. But not nearly as good now with this Ags nerf. CK is a hero I have very mixed feelings about. They increased the crit at the later levels, but by very little, only 5% per each level, right? All the way getting up to, 15% more at max, which is great. This helps him later on. So do I think this is a good buff for CK? Of course. Of course, it's actually quite notable when you use your ultimate, right? 15% more on each illusion adds up very quickly. And then he even got a talent buff from 12% CDR to 15%, but I don't know, because if you look at the counterpart, it's 15 strength, and that's a hard pass on CK. Considering, you don't want your illusions to die in the fight, you really want strength in many situations. It feels really good to take strength on a hero that relies on keeping his illusions alive. It makes a lot of sense. But 15% cooldown reduction on a very cooldown reliant hero also is great, so that's a hard choice. Frankly, I don't know what's better, and let me know what you guys think in the comment section. Like, which one of these is better? I don't know. I genuinely don't know, but I think CK's good. I think he's pretty good in pubs, yeah. Chen. So Chen was one of the most dominant supports of TI. I feel like this hero was just bonkers, only because people realized if you buy a headdress, you got a permanent tango on everyone around you at level 1. Which is quite strong. It's why Weehus and Meepo could easily sustain through the Enchantress of OG in Game 1 of the Grand Finals. It felt like basically the reason why that lane was so easy. I mean, also in combination with Meepo's extremely high armor. But still, they didn't actually nerf that part too hard, at least. They really didn't. So what they nerfed first off is the creeps you could get at level 1. It's from 4 to 3, and then from 5 to 4, and then from 6 to 5, eventually getting all the way back up to 6. And yes, this is a nerf, by all means. But really what was impressive about Chen to me was simply his ability to team fight, and mostly just give HP regen in the laning stage, which they didn't heavily nerf. Now, they did nerf the heal amp by 2% at all levels, which is a start. But Hand of God plus Mech will still give everyone around you. I don't know the number. It's around like 500-600 HP, even at level 1. It's really that crazy. Really is. So I'm really not confident Shen's out of the meta. I'm not. You still get 2 regen per second coming out of Divine Favor. You still do. And if you still buy a headdress, you still get close to 7 HP regen per second. I'm not convinced this hero's out of the meta. In fact, I think it still might be popular, even though it has gotten another 20 seconds to Divine Favor as well. Similar to Alk. Don't know. I think these heroes are still playable. I really do. Clockwork. A sad story at TI. Sad. Sad. One of the only unpicked heroes, right? In combination with Ursa and Coddle. Let's see his buffs. So, intelligence increased from 17 to 18 with also some buffs there. I mean, good, but okay. Like, And then a 5 movement speed increase, which is good for a hero that very heavily relies on movement speed in the laning stage. So that's all great. And then finally we see that Powercog's knockback radius is increased by 15, meaning it's easier to bump into them. So do I think Clock is good now? I don't know. Do I think people maybe undervalue him and are looking down upon him a bit too much? Maybe a little bit. I feel like he has his niche plays in some games, but at the same time, Force Staff just completely counters the hero and its form of initiation, which is quite sad. It's quite sad, and his laning stats are also not great, but can you drag waves and power cogs to help out your lane? Yes. I think it has its place, but you definitely want to get off to a good start with this hero if you're going to pick it. Next up is Disruptor. This is a hero I also thought would be more popular at TI than it actually was, but its maximum damage per second from its ultimate has been increased at level 2 and level 3, actually making it scale much better into the late game. And then the Stack Storm radius was also increased from 450 to 500, which is actually a lot. For radius, 50 is a ton, so this is a big deal and can actually secure you a kill in a situation where someone might have just barely gotten out of it, especially if it's a panic situation of throwing it down without kinetic field. I like this. I think it's good. I think Disruptor eventually will come back into the meta, maybe in one more buff. That's my guess. Up next is Drow. This was a hero that was a hot meta not a few patches ago, but unfortunately has fallen from grace, and now each level she gets 2% more of Precision Aura, making it 8% better at max level, which is a lot. 8% more is quite a bit. It's quite a bit. Do I think Drow's good? Probably not. It's probably still a bit too slow, way too weak in lane, and And then a talent increase, meh. Huge Elder Titan nerfs, like absolutely huge. His cooldown on Astral Spirit was reduced from 17 to 23, and actually you can't, seemingly based on my brief testing of Elder Titan, you can't actually reset the Astral Spirit. So one of the main benefits was if you fought at a rune and got the damage from using it on enemy heroes, because it would come off cooldown before the duration ran out, you could get the second spirit off and keep your damage, which was really nice for keeping up your trade. Now, due to the fact that it's 6 seconds longer, the cooldown at level 1, I don't think you can do that, and I feel like this just kills the hero. Also, Astral Spirit buff is now dispellable. That is so bad for Elder Titan. Like, you could just get dispelled. Like, Enchantress just straight up can take an enchant and make your hero useless in lane. I think this is overkill, honestly. I don't think Elder Titan's even going to be picked anymore now. I genuinely think this hero might go untouched. Maybe I'm overreacting, but I think his strength was his laning, his ability to just be an Undying with teamfight. Now he's not an Undying, he's just teamfight. Up next, yeah boy, Enchantress! That's base damage reduced by 4, that's pretty huge, you know, considering she just pokes you in lane all game. It's nice. Nature's Attendance heal reduced from 10 to 7 wisps at level 1, and that's the most important one, because it actually does eventually scale back up to its former glory of 13 and max, but often players wouldn't max this spell, which makes it quite a big nerf. And then Impetus, 2% less damage at all levels. Now, guys, once again, like Chen and Elk, are the heroes worse? Of course, quite a bit. But is Enchantress unplayable? Is she? I think if you see that you're laning against something like a Spectre or a Terrorblade or a Lifestealer where you know it's like going to be a pretty easy lane, I think Ench is still pretty good. That's my take. If you can get to level 4, your heal is still quite good. It's still solid, right? Even at level 1, you're still going to get around full HP. Is Ench out of the meta? I don't know. In fact, similar to Alk and Chen, I think people might even overreact to these nerfs. In fact, I often believe people do very commonly overreact to nerfs. I wouldn't give up on Enchantress yet. If you're still playing her in pubs, continue to give her a chance. Same thing with Chen and Alk. I think they still have quite a bit of potential, unfortunately. Next up, we have Faceless Void, a hero that definitely needed a bit of a nerf. He was definitely 100% a top-tier carry of this current patch. Got an agility gain reduction, and Chronosphere cooldown being increased. It's the same at level 1, but then 10 and 20 seconds longer at level 2 and 3. So basically making him worse the later on, right? You can't level up Chrono to make it better, which I think is nice. It makes him quite a bit worse in the late game and incentivizes his Aghanim Scepter even more, which I like. I think it's cool. Gyrocopter, the only thing he got was his Side Gunner Scepter attack rate changed from 1.1 to 1.2, which I think it was that anyway in the past, and people would buy Ags then. So I think Gyro is about the same, still a top tier hero in my opinion. If you don't play Gyro, try him out. He's still very good and a top tier flex pick between mid and safe lane in this current meta. Io. Thanks guys for messing with Io again. Needed, of course, based on Anna's performance, literally winning TI with a carry ball of whatever this thing is. I mean, like, what a weird way to see OG win. Honestly, if you just think about it, it is really bizarre that they won TI with a hero like Io. I mean, considering last TI didn't pick anything besides the untraditional carries like Spectre or PL. Next up is one of the biggest changes of this patch, and that is Coddle. For some reason, his Blinding Light has been reduced from 30 to 14 at level 1. I don't think there's ever been that big of a cooldown reduction buff in Dota. 16 seconds over a 50% decrease? Pretty nuts. Also, the cast range was buffed at level 1 by 25 as well. Not only that, Chakra Mana Leak was also buffed. And not only that, he got a talent buff as well. I think Coddle is now pretty good. Your laning is solid. In the past, when Blinding Light didn't get nerfed this hard, people were taking Blinding Light at level 1 just to use the 70% miss chance to cause people to miss last hits. And now you can do that on a 14-second cooldown from farther away. I'm pretty sure people are going to pick Coddle and just grief your CS the entire laning stage. I'm not kidding. In fact, I think you should do it as well. Coddle's now a solid team fighter with an actual decent laning stage spell, which he kind of lacked in the past. His Q would just instantly shove the lane, which is okay in some cases, but would cause you to sometimes get your creeps denied. It was very awkward. But now you just have this really good spell. Next up is Kunkka. I think Kunkka was probably going to get a bigger nerf, but he dropped off in favor the later on TI went, and